You ever get fined nearly $1,000 a day by a group of people you've never met for living on your own land? Yeah, that actually happened to me. And it got a whole lot messier than I ever expected. I grew up on a quiet farm just outside Knoxville, Tennessee. Been in my family for generations. Nothing fancy, but it's home. A few goats, some chickens, wide open skies, and a whole lot of peace. When I got engaged to Rachel, we decided to settle down right here, build a little place of our own on the back side of the property. Until then, we bought an old RV, parked it out behind the chicken coop, and started our life together. Now we're not the flashy type. We don't need granite countertops or marble floors. Just space quiet, and enough room for a coffee pot, and a dog bed. Everything was going fine until we met the HOA. Well met. Might be a strong word. We never joined them. Never signed anything. Never lived within their official boundaries. But that didn't stop them from deciding we were a problem. One day, I'm going through a stack of unopened mail. Don't judge, I'm a farmer. Paper piles up, and I find a letter from the Whisper Ridge HOA. Then another, and another. Turns out they were fining me for having an R. I stared at the paper like it was written in another language. $850 per day for living in a vehicle that wasn't even visible from the road on land my dad handed down to me. I figured it was a mistake, so I called the number on the letter. Woman picks up Elaine, president of the HOA voice, as fake sweet as one of those store-bought pies with no flavor. I tell her there must be a mistake. Her answer: RVs are not permitted within the visual perimeter of our neighborhood. They reduce property values. I said, lady, my RV's on my farm, surrounded by woods. Only thing seeing it is the squirrels. She didn't care. Said the HOA's rules apply to all properties in what she called the community radius. I told her in plain words I'm not a member, I'm not paying, and I'm not moving my home because some board president with a superiority complex thinks my life makes her cul-de-sac look poor. She said, then we'll continue billing you until you comply. I hung up. And for a few days, I thought that'd be the end of it. I figured they'd get bored, realize they had no legal grounds, and move on. But you know what happens when small-minded people get a taste of fake power. They double down. One Sunday, Rachel and I walked up to the main house for dinner with my folks like we always do. Mama made pork roast. Daddy opened a bottle of homemade wine, and we sat around telling stories and laughing too loud like we always have. But when we walked back to the RV that night, our little home looked like a war zone. Windows smashed in, spray paint across the side. Words I won't even repeat, nasty stuff. Trailer trash, move out. You don't belong here. It was like they wanted to erase us, like our kind of life wasn't welcome on land we own. Rachel didn't say a word. She just walked inside and sat down on the edge of the bed with her head in her hands. I stood outside, breathing heavy, staring at the damage. And I knew deep in my gut, I knew who did it. A couple years ago, I'd set up cameras around the chicken run after a fox got into the coop one night. Never turned them off, and thank God I didn't. The footage showed 3 figures sneaking around with flashlights. One of them Elaine, plain as day. She and 2 board members, grown adults, creeping around like teenagers, smashing glass and laughing like bullies on a playground. I could have gone straight to the sheriff, but something in me wanted them to feel the heat in public. So I printed stills from the footage and walked into the next HOA meeting. They tried to act like I didn't belong, told me non-members couldn't speak. But I raised my hand anyway. I said last Sunday my home was vandalized. I've got the footage. It shows exactly who did it. And unless you want the whole neighborhood to see it, I suggest you listen." Elaine blinked just once, then put on that fake smile and said, "We're sorry for your trouble, but you're not a member, so this isn't really our concern." "Oh, it's about to be," I said. "Because when you destroy someone's property and they've got your face on camera, it becomes everybody's concern." They threw me out before I could show the video, but the damage was done. Word spread faster than feet in a henhouse, and I didn't stop there. I filed a police report, hired a lawyer, and sued the HOA for harassment, trespassing, and property damage. At the hearing, my lawyer played the footage nice and slow. Elaine tried to argue that the HOA had extended jurisdiction, whatever that's supposed to mean, and that I should have complied with the spirit of the rules. The judge looked at her like she was out of her mind. "You have no legal right to enforce HOA rules on non-member property," he said, "and certainly no right to vandalize it." Long story short, the HOA had to pay for every dollar of damage plus legal fees. They were barred from contacting me, sending letters, or even stepping foot on my land again. Criminal charges didn't stick, but the judge warned them one more slip-up, and they'd be facing jail time. Rachel and I fixed the RV best we could, still living in it while we wait for the house to finish. She's due in a month, our little girl, first one. I'm gonna raise her right. I'm gonna teach her to plant things that grow and stand up to bullies that don't. And here's the thing. This was never really about an RV. It was about people trying to erase a way of life. Folks like Elaine want a world of trimmed hedges, silent neighbors, and shiny mailboxes. People like me, we want chickens, diesel engines, and peace. So if you've ever been pushed around by a board of people you didn't elect, know this. You've got more power than you think. Document everything. Stand tall. And never ever let 'em make you feel small on your own land. Now I gotta ask, what would you have done in my shoes? Think they should have done jail time? Or was the fine enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'll be reading every one. And if you've got your own HOA horror story, I'd love to hear it. Hit that like button, maybe subscribe if this hit close to home. 'Cause if there's one thing I've learned, when it comes to HOAs, the fight is never just about the rules. It's about who gets to write them.